Network, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are keeping calm, we're staying local, and literally going right down the street on this one. So, short story long, feels like I meet and know everyone around here, especially over the last couple years, ever since Bill Cole convinced me to be a do-gooder here in the community, have nothing but really cool people on doing awesome stuff, because there are so many great things happening. Christy Green is a returning champion, I will call her, the executive director at the St. Francis Neighborhood Center. I would say that Shelby Kemp, our friend from Royal Farms, who sent me, I don't know how much coffee she thinks I'm going to drink. Christy, this is about a 48-ounce coffee mug here. I think this will be enough coffee from now through the weekend, I think. But our friends at Royal Farms and John Enoch, we have so many friends, and Victoria August, who had a lovely, lovely porch decoration on the Memorial Day weekend as well. Welcome in. How are you? It's good to have you back on. I know the pandemic finds all of us a little bit frazzled, and certainly 10 weeks into this and now into summer, and for the kind of work you do, which is challenging even on the sunniest of days. It's good to have you back on, because it comes into my DNA here over the last 10 weeks that people have been prodding me every week or two. You got to have Christy on. They're doing stuff. They need tablets. Royal Farms tells me you're doing other stuff. So I just said, you know what? Let's bring Christy back on and see what's going on down at St. Francis and how we can be helpful.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I don't have you guys on often enough. I probably should have had you on 6 months ago before we went into pandemic land. You're always doing so much with the community and young people and learning. And I've had the CEO of Baltimore City Schools and Sonia Santelises on, and we've talked to so many educators. Don Moeller makes me do this stuff as part of Baltimore Positive and keeping up on education. But one of the real challenges during this pandemic has been how the most challenged parts of our community educationally are going to be left even further behind. Wi-Fi, connectivity, tablets, libraries, the way people get online and the way people learn of all ages throughout our community. This has really been a tough 10 weeks for people who don't have that connectivity and are trying to be educated. And this isn't even necessarily socioeconomic. I mean, we've talked to several college presidents and university chancellors. You can find it all out in our buyatoyota.com audio vault and Baltimore Positive as well, where students come to Morgan or Coppin or Towson or UMBC, but they live somewhere else and they go home. Maybe they don't have a tablet. Maybe they have financial challenges. Maybe they don't have Wi-Fi at their house. Maybe they live on a farm where Wi-Fi is not really available. There's all of this that goes on, and yet you're here in the middle of the city struggling with these day-to-day issues that are literally right down the street in the middle of an election week.
Yes, that is for sure. I mean, it's a social experiment right now, right?
Oh,
I mean, This is so tough. We just knew what we had to do, which was we have, after school and summer programming. We just knew we instantly had to transition, and we had no choice but to take care of and serve our community. We're a community center. It was our moral obligation to continue. So even without a promise of funding or guarantee of funding, we quickly pivoted to online. We loaned out every single one of our laptop computers from our mobile lab. We made sure within 10 days, every home in our program had a computer, which none of them did. And we also made sure they had internet. We signed them up with Comcast Internet Essentials, the 60 days for free, and instantly got them online learning with their program, and started hosting Google Classrooms and Class Dojo every day, even teaching French and karate.
Well, so much of life, and I was talking to Luke about this earlier, and when I think about music, and I think I've been doing these daily albums every day, and these blasts from the past, and memories of Depeche Mode, and whatever else we dance to in our day, and so much of it's communal, right? So much of everything is bringing people together, and the design of everything you and others work on is how do we bring people together to make life better for people, certainly in challenged areas. And you guys are just east of the Penn North area, just south of Druid Hill Park, right around the corner from where our friends make this delicious Taharka Wake and Bake that they make right on the other side of 83. Give everybody the history of St. Francis Neighborhood Center and your role. You've been there a decade. So, I mean, I would think every challenge you could imagine imagine you see. And when we talk about guns and murders and things and bad things that happen in our community, I would think 10 years being where you are and serving the community you serve, you are on the front lines for all of these challenges. And we hear so much with politicians this week talking about trauma and wraparound services and what happens to families and where we are. Run me back 10 weeks in the beginning of this pandemic for where you were historically and for what has happened specifically to your organization and maybe some ways we can activate our crowd today.
Sure. So, well, first of all, we're the oldest community center in Baltimore City. We've been around since 1963. And I think what's critical about that is there's not many organizations you can say that have been through the civil rights movement, 80s economic recession, Freddie Gray's death, and now a pandemic. And we're here. So it's always been that we're community driven. We always have had the mission of education to end generational poverty, and it's working. Our holistic programming is amazing. Our kids are getting B's or better in school. The majority of them are. We have an external evaluator that reports on this every year since 2009. So we know what we have is working. And so when this pandemic happened, our big concern, obviously, is we're working with families that are already struggling, vulnerable, and at risk. This is like a triple punch. This is, now if they can't work, what kind of emergencies are we going to see? And we've always had an emergency fund, and we've used it before for, if there's been a fire and everything's been lost, or there's been a victim of gun violence in the family, and we've helped with that, with counseling and support through that. But what do you do when your entire community needs emergency services, needs the basic essentials? We saw an 1,800% increase and that's 1,800% increase in
18
our emergency.
times. There you go. Yeah.
1,800 times increase in our emergency fund requests with just basics, and a lot of multi-generations living in one home, so scared for the grandparents to be with the kids and in a small space and needing just food and baby formula and diapers and medical supplies. We even had one of our moms, her wheelchair broke. And it's a customized wheelchair. She was a victim of gun violence some years ago. And
my mother was 98 years old 2 years ago. My mother was not a victim of gun violence, but my mother's walker, that were her legs. The day that my mom called and said, my walker's not functioning, every radio stops, life stops. Mom can't get to the refrigerator. We got to fix that. That's in
right,
and that doesn't sound until you've been in that circumstance or have known that circumstance. Like that it just sounds like it's a broken wheelchair. We'll get to it. No, we won't get to it. We have to. That's a fire right now, right here.
Right, exactly. It is an emergency. It's dire, and so we intervened in that. We had, unfortunately, a family that was homeless just before this happened, so we've been working with them. So, but we have great things that have been occurring out of this, and so I try to focus on the positive like you do. I mean, it's really hard when it's tough out there, but the good news is nearly 60% of our kids are logging on every day to their online program, where Baltimore City Schools is seeing about a 13% engagement. So we're keeping our kids engaged. We're helping our families. We've distributed to over 1,300 people now with emergency goods like vegetables, fruit, even chicken. And we've just been on it. And we just pivoted quickly as we could, and transitioned to, okay, if we can't be together as a community physically, what can we do to be here for our community? And so even today at 10 o'clock, we're distributing over 100 cases of fruit and vegetables out of the center. And then it's kind of challenging through all of this, super challenging, is that we've been planning on a renovation and expansion. We've been raising money for that since 2016 because we have a 3-year wait list of kids waiting to get in our programs.
Tell me about how big of a facility are you? How many people do you comfortably serve? And then this expansion that you've dreamed of for a number of years. And Christy Green is the executive director at St. Francis Neighborhood Center. She is our guest. But give me a little, where were you March 10th? Because we were all one place March 10th and we're all another place June 1st, right? Literally.
Correct. So what happened is we were ready to start construction. We moved down to Dorothy I. Heights, 2 blocks down the street, and we were able to jump from 50 kids to 75 when we went there. So that was good. But we could fit about 50 kids in our house. It's a big brownstone that's falling apart on the corner of Linden and Whitelock. And we just felt it was time to, even though we hadn't raised all the money yet, we thought, let's move down the street, finish raising the rest of the money. So then we were in Dorothy I Height when all this happened. So clearly we're not in Dorothy I Height, but we're back to the center distributing our fruits and vegetables and food and everything, and even making deliveries to families that have no access to transportation or can't leave or homebound or, so we've been doing that as well. But when this is built, and Royal Farms is a huge contributor and partner for us on this.
Do you want me to hold the part where they do the world-famous chicken or the part where they do the Western fries? Which side do you want me to do? I'm going to do Western fries today because the chicken gets enough love. They do Chicken Palooza. They don't do Western Fry-a-Palooza, but if I ran Royal Farms, we would have a Western Fry-a-Palooza too.
Western fries
with extra
are my
ketchup.
All-time favorite. Yep. Love it. But they have committed, they've already given $125,000 towards the capital campaign to the renovation and expansion, and have committed another $150,000, and we're naming the cafe and kitchen the Royal Farms Cafe and Kitchen. So they've been an integral part of our success in the capital campaign. And the good news about that is we are going to break ground. We've raised the majority of the money for that already. And in July, we're breaking ground, and we're going to have a minimum of 200 kids at a time in the center. And that's conservative. It's likely going to be more like 300.
Well, you certainly brought me up to speed on where we are. What can our people do at this point? What are the daily needs? Is it food on a day-to-day basis, and the tablets and learning tools are sort of an ongoing thing, right? Like that never ends, and food probably never ends either, certainly not in a pandemic.
Right. So the food piece of it, we always had a relationship with Whole Foods. We've always gotten donations, and we've always partnered with the different organizations that provide food. But we ourselves, it shows how quickly we flipped and switched as we started providing massive food for the neighborhood. And we did that when Freddie Gray passed away as well. We were serving lunches and distributing food as well. It just shows that we're able to quickly transition into the needs of our community. But what's coming, I'm sure we're going to continue with the emergency services. This is not going to end anytime soon. And even if let's say it ended tomorrow, we're still going to have issues that we're going to have to deal with as a result of this. It's just, we're just trying to be there and listen. Our staff checks in with our families on a daily basis and just says, how are you? What do you need? What's going on in your family? What can we do for you? And that's constant every day, and that's going to continue. And then we're getting ready for our summer program. We are going to have a virtual summer camp.
Summer is here. It was like 80 today. I felt it. Yeah. I've shaved up, and I'm wearing lighter shirts now. Thank you, Leonard Raskin. I appreciate that. It's even though I don't golf, it's time for golf shirts. It's time to put the long underwear and like the winter jackets. It's over. It's summer now, right?
Right. And so we're planning for summer. We do have a golf invitational planned for September, and we're looking for sponsors for that. And we're hoping we can still have that as well as the party following. Isn't that fun? So, it depends on how many people we can have together, but we know we can golf. So we're going to go back on track with that fundraiser. But obviously everything else has had to be canceled. So I think what's important is definitely go to our website, which is stfranciscenter.org, and Francis is Francis. And check out, we have COVID-19 needs. We have the link to our Amazon wish list. You can make a donation to the emergency fund or the capital campaign or general operations. There's a lot of opportunity there to help us out. You don't get more direct service than us. We are so grassroots, so organic. I don't do anything without the community saying to me, this is what we want to do. All of our programs are community-based and holistic. We don't just work with the child, we work with the entire family. We're even doing virtual home visits right now. Isn't that cool?
Well, checking in on people's sort of everything, right?
Right.
And that's kind of where we've been through all of this because we haven't had the humanity of being able to hug each other and fist bump. I mean, I've looked at my son twice in the last 10 weeks from across the yard where he's planting lovely tomatoes. Let's say I'm made mayor a year from now and you called me and I said, what would make the city better? You being someone that's in this, what's at the core of this? As I'm holding, and I am holding it right now, the ballot with all the mayors. Folks here, and it's a long, long list here. Stokey Kennedy, Lou Catelli, Valerie Cunningham, Sheila Dixon, down the list here. We've had a lot of these folks on. Mary Miller, Daru Vignaraja, TJ Smith. Somebody's going to be the mayor here, and places like yours you're going to meet the mayor, whoever the mayor is. You might already know the mayor, right? It might be Brandon Scott, it might be Jack Young, right? What can they do to make the city better?
Well, I know for us what's working is a community voice, a real one, and education. I would say a lot of times people say, oh, I reached out to the community and got what they said and then didn't really do anything with it. They just said they did it. So true listening and education. I mean, we get the Baltimore Children's Youth Fund, which is for the out-of-school time program. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. What I would love is not to have to worry about funding for our programs. If I could worry about everything else to make sure that we're running smoothly and not the funding.
And that's hard enough.
That would be amazing.
Operations is really, really difficult unto itself. Yes.
Yes. But out of school time programming, whether it's after school or summer, it's just so critical, especially for inner city kids. There's not necessarily like they can go play baseball in the summer or go to different things. I mean, yes, there's leagues and there's things to do, but when you don't have the funding as a family to do those things, holistic family youth programming that works on education to end poverty is working for our community. And I think that that's critical. I would love to spread all over the city and do what we do all over the city because, popping up a rec space is temporary. It's short term. It may be a safe, initially, a safe place for kids to go, but it's not a long-term solution. And I feel like we're very short term. We think of things.
Well, we are. I mean, we get elected every 4 years, right? So, literally, I hate to be crass about it, but that sort of is the story of this. And as I sit here and hold the ballot and, we're several mayors into this and several indicted, I look at it and say, when are we going to take a long view on this and killing the red line and all the things we've talked about with transportation and crime? But the first thing you talked about was education. Without that piece, we're always going to be stuck until we get smarter, we get better, we have access to those things for people to be able to help themselves and become employed and have job training. I think we're really going to struggle. And part of that is transportation and part of that is eating the right foods. I was driving through Hampton the other day and I saw just the most lovely garden. And I'm really big on food, and I think obviously it keeps you up at night, right? Food and how you get it and where it's coming from, and being food challenged. So many people food challenged. We talked to the folks at the Maryland Food Bank that it seems pretty fundamental that we could grow food around here, and seeing people do that in places like Detroit, very, very inspiring for me because I think the first thing we could do is feed our own communities, and through that there would be the education of learning how to feed our communities that would be educational unto itself.
That is correct. I mean, there's security in, if you are starving, you can't learn. You can't think. We know what it's like to be hangry. I mean, imagine if you're that all the time and you're going to school. So that obviously we feed our kids when we have them. And we're actually sending kits right now to the kids. Not only are we delivering emergency groceries and all of that, but we're doing a trail mix kit that all the kids are going to get today. And then with our virtual learning class, they get a hands-on activity. We also have Art with a Heart, which is a partner of ours, and they're sending art kits. And so on our Amazon wish list, we have all the kit needs that we want. And so I just think that's a cool idea. We got that from the National Summer Learning Association. Give the kids, mail them, deliver them, we deliver them a kit that they can actually do a hands-on activity while they're doing their virtual online learning, through the classroom.
And with online, they can then show you what they've done, right? Like literally, you can share it.
Yep, and we're going to have growing kits and STEM kits and all kinds of fun fitness kits. We're going to do it all this summer just to keep it engaging. And like we said, we taught karate and French already. It's like seems to just keep you engaged and excited for the kids to get on.
Well, I want to take my wife to Paris when this is all over, so you can help her with the French, all right?
Right. Well, we have a mom that a lot of moms, but I asked this one particular mom that we're working with, if you could do any online training right now, because you were a hairdresser and obviously you can't work as a hairdresser right now and you can't pay your rent. And
you should see my hair, man. I'm getting I'm telling you the Canadian hockey 80s thing's coming back. I'm telling you, I look like Gretzky.
Yeah, well, she did an online training for ServSafe, which is food handling, and she's going to work her way all the way up through the management trainings, and we're going to help support her with that. So that's the other thing. Like, now's a great time for our parents and families to take additional classes, online education, and we're supporting that too. So like I said, it's not just the kids, it's the entire family. But it seems like when we focus on the kids, the parents get interested in what we're doing and why their child's so excited. And then that's why 50% of our parents are jumping on the online classes every day. They're enjoying it. So it's just
family learning, right? That is,
I know.
Right.
It's great. Imagine.
Look at that. Well, look, we're all spending a whole lot of time together. We're all getting to know our family, I think. Christy, I appreciate you and all that you do. I'm going to send everybody out. You can find Christy on LinkedIn. You can find their website and everything they do at stfranciscenter.org. They're right around the corner, just south of Druidale Park, right around the corner from that delicious ice cream of Taharka, and always getting help by our friends at Royal Farms. And a big shout out to John Enoch, all the Enoch family, and everybody that supports you guys, because everybody, they're always hitting me. You got to have Christy on. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have Christy on. We'll talk about Reservoir Hill and talk, I had our friends on from the zoo. I had Don Hutchinson and Kirby Fowler on. So, I mean, we're missing Brew at the Zoo and Zoo at the Brew and all of those things this summer, right around the corner from you as well. But I hope we get together at some point soon and get back to something normal, but it has challenged all of us, and resilient people like you and the folks at St. Francis. I had no doubt that you would come up with other ways to serve the community, because that's what you've been doing for 50 years, right?
Yes, thank you.
Christy, appreciate you. She is the executive director at St. Francis Neighborhood Center. They're doing great, great work. You can find them out on the web. I will direct them to you. I will share them. They're still over on Linden Avenue in the big brick building that she said is falling apart, which is why they need help. We could all use a little help here this week. Thank God Taharka sent me some ice cream. We're going to hear from Mimi Brown later on this week about insurance, as well as my friend Leonard Raskin's going to be here from Raskin Global, trying to get Mark Miller on from Blondell Miller, but I'm sure Todd will be here and say, yeah, Mark's got things this week. Avoiding me till baseball season starts, I guess. Who knows? All right, I'm out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault, nasty at WNST.net. We've merged WNST.net with Baltimore Positive. They're sort of like together now at WNST.net. Still doing tons of Baltimore Positive stuff with my one-time high school guidance counselor at Dundalk High School in 1982 and former Baltimore County Executive Don Moeller, chatting with folks like Stuart Pittman and folks like Freeman Rabowski, all of the mayoral candidates, as well this week with Michael Olesker, as well as Dan Rodricks, Arsh Murmurin from Caves Valley Partners and Cross Street Market, where there's also Rofo Chicken in Taharka. It's a small world after all. It's Baltimore. Let's stick together. Keeping calm, staying local. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive.